You always end up in the same place year after year. Maybe you change for a little bit for a couple weeks or maybe even a month, but it's always temporary. You always end up falling back into the same habits time and time again. And this, my friend, is the cycle of stagnation and one that we all can relate to. It's this repeating cycle of getting stuck in a plateau, getting comfortable, your life gets boring, but then you seek change, you're motivated, you start to develop a plan of what you want your life to be, you start to lay out the steps in order to get there. Maybe you even take the first couple of steps, but then you look up at the 10,000 other steps that you need to take and you start to get discouraged. You slowly start to begin to put in less effort. And the less effort you put in, the less you believe that you actually can succeed at getting to step 10,000. And then before you know it, you fall back into those old habits like you did before, time and time again, which takes you a couple months to get out of. And then that cycle repeats over and over and over again. Sound familiar? Because it was for me too. This 4 to 6 month cycle for me would repeat for years where I was just stuck in the same place repeatedly, and it drove me fucking insane because I couldn't understand why. I thought, am I just not capable? Am I just not built for this? Am I just delusional? Like, what is happening here? I want this shit so fucking bad, but no matter what I do or no matter what I try, I just always end up in the same place. And the reason is how I was able to break out of this cycle once and for all is because you need to go through a mental rework, aka you need to kill the version of you now in order for the better version of you to be born. Because what's happening currently is that internally, your mental framework is built on a shitty foundation. Maybe you've built it up a little bit and maybe you have your own unique ways of operating and thinking and behavior patterns and things of this nature, which, as a side note, are all subconscious things that play a huge role on how you perform on a day-to-day basis. And some of these things might be good, but let's be honest, most of them are pretty bad. And that's no disrespect. I'm just being completely honest with you. But on top of that, your shitty subconscious patterns are built on a shitty foundation. It's built of sand, which makes it all wobbly and unstable. And when you have that instability, it's hard to build anything that has longevity. It becomes hard to stay consistent. It becomes hard to stay disciplined. It becomes hard to make any consistent change in any aspect of your life. And those are the key things that you need in order to change your life, in order to change your behavior, in order to change your mindset. And if you want to change who you are and what you do in this life, you need those three things. And you simply cannot do that if your mental framework is built on a shitty foundation. And what you have to do, unfortunately, is tear it all down, even the parts that you don't want to. You have to kill the old version of you and rebuild it as the version of you that you strive to be. You have to start from scratch. You cannot keep this little piece over here and try and skip this step over here to give yourself a head start during the process. No, you have to start with a completely blank slate. And I'm going to tell you how I did it to save you all the trial and error that I went through for the first 2 years of my journey. I did it through isolation and deep thought. I would find a time of day, which was usually super early in the morning or super late at night, where no one would bother me. And I would get in my car with no music, no podcast, phone on do not disturb, and I would just drive. I would feel whatever feelings I felt. I would think whatever thoughts came to my mind. I wouldn't try to feel a certain way or think certain things. I would just let my mind completely go wherever it wanted to. And as the drive progressed, the speed of thoughts that were coming into my mind would slow down. The feelings would start to slowly go away. My breathing would settle. My heart rate would slow down. And after about 10 to 15 minutes, I would become fully immersed into it and fully in the present moment, which is commonly known as flow state. And when you're in this state, you are free to do as you please. And what I mean by do as you please is you can visualize anything you want. You can manifest anything you want. You can feel anything that you want. You can be as creative as you want. You can just be, period. So whatever change that I was trying to make, in this case, it was tearing down my old mental framework and killing the old version of myself. I would visualize a scene that I would put myself in that I want you to visualize with me right now. I would visualize myself standing outside of this building, which was built on a poor foundation. And the building was swaying from side to side. The air was whistling as it cut through the cracks in the building. The moon of the midnight sky was illuminating the only two things that existed in this space of endless plains, which were me and this building, which symbolized the old version of myself and the old mental framework, which needed to come down. And what I would do is I would walk around the building. I would observe it. I would identify the weaknesses of the foundation, the specific pillars that made it unstable. And eventually I would look up at the building and I would say goodbye to it and pull out the very pillar that was keeping it up. And I would step back and watch it all come crashing down and turn into nothing but rubble. And that symbolized me wiping my slate completely clean and is now my signal to begin rebuilding my mental framework. And I would identify the things that I needed to do differently in order to make sure that that foundation was now sturdy moving forward. That's what I would do. I'm a very visual learner and a very visual thinker, which is why I think visualizing is a superpower. Because the more that you can visualize the changes that you want to make, the more impactful they will be. Because if you are able to feel the change, if you're not feeling it and you don't have a why behind the reason that you're doing it in the first place, I don't think you ever will make the change. Because for me, every ounce of my heart and soul was behind the changes that I wanted to make and the changes that I end up did making. And the only way that I was able to do it was through visualization. Now, I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. Do whatever works best for you. But regardless, at the end of the day, you are currently sitting on a shitty foundation and you have to tear that one down first in order to ever be able to rebuild it and change who you are and change how you operate on a day-to-day basis.